In the world of drug cartels, it's quite common for members to go into an all-out war against each other and the authorities. The internet is filled with stories of fierce encounters between different cartels and the police. When such encounters take place, they only result in the tales of brutal tortures and deaths. But when innocent people are caught in the middle of these fights, it's a different story. Here are 6 times when innocent people were mistaken for cartel members. Get ready for some of the craziest stories with unexpected endings you have ever heard. Case number 1. Christina Roman. "Go hide with the kids, they have guns," were the last words that Christina Roman ever heard from her home. While the majority of innocent people find themselves in the crosshairs of both the drug cartels and authorities for raising their voices against violence in the areas of corruption, Christina fell victim for a different reason. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was 8:30 p.m. on 31st of March 2011 when a bunch of federal police officers entered the bar where Christina worked and told everyone to get into a line against the wall. Apparently, it was a search operation. The police officers searched each and every person present in the bar for any potential weapons that they might be carrying. Men were padded in between their legs, and all the bar counters, tables, and bathrooms were thoroughly checked. Not only this, the women present in the bar were also checked as if they were terrorists. The men in the uniform looked up the women's skirts and emptied their handbags. None of the people present in the bar that night had seen such a high level of scrutiny before in their lives. But things took a further unpleasant turn when one of the police officers started groping one of Christina's colleagues. This was too much for Christina, so she intervened and said, "Hey, we respect you and your work. You should respect us. You can't treat us like that." The cop's reply was something Christina had never heard from a police officer. "You haven't seen anything yet. The worst is yet to come." Christina didn't know that the worst the police officer was referring to was just a few moments away. Shortly after the cops left the bar after checking everyone, 2 men entered the bar, but they were not empty-handed. Rather, they were carrying automatic machine guns. What followed next was nothing an inch short of a hell. While some people were still comprehending the situation, one man seemed to have understood what was about to happen, but as he lunged for the doorway, he was instantly shot by the gunman. The assassins, or the sicarios, as they are called in Mexico, wanted to kill a member of a rival cartel, but instead, innocent people were killed as they opened fire in every direction. Every single person present in the bar was thought of as a cartel member, and the sicarios tried to kill them all without discrimination. And after they were done shooting, they set the bar on fire. Christina, however, got lucky in escaping the scene, but it wasn't the only time Christina became the victim of cartel violence. She also had the sicarios raid her home. However, this time, they were against her husband. They grabbed and threw Christina to the floor and pistol-whipped her husband. One of the men threatened to kill each one of the family members, but was interrupted by the other member, who reminded him that they were there only for Christina's husband. Christina was then told to go to her kids' room, close the door, and don't leave or open the door, no matter what she heard. Fearing for the life of her husband and her kids, Christina did exactly that. But what followed next was an unforgettable experience for Christine and her family. Her husband was brutally beaten for the next 30 minutes, and the sound of him groaning and weeping could be heard in the room where Christina was hiding with her kids. When the noise stopped and Christina gathered the courage to come out of the room, she thought her husband would be lying somewhere in the house with all the injuries that were inflicted upon him, but it was not to be. There was no one in the house, neither the sicarios or her husband. It is then that she realized that her life partner had been kidnapped by the cartel members. Initially thought to be a cartel member, when the sicarios discovered that Christina's husband was a common man who had nothing to do with the drug business or any cartel, they demanded a huge amount of ransom from Christina's family. Her brother-in-law later received a call and was told that his brother would be freed only if they paid a ransom for it. They were only given 2 days to pay the ransom amount. It was a race against time. After selling their business and liquidating their assets, Christina's family was able to pay the ransom that was demanded by the sicarios, but the events that followed changed Christina's world forever. On the day when her husband was supposed to return home, he did not. And before Christina could think about doing anything, his dead body was found in the street. That's just one story of when innocent people were mistaken for cartel members. This next story is even more shocking than this one. Case number 2. Reynosa killings. Innocent people getting mistakenly killed by both the cartels as well as the authorities has become quite common in a country like Mexico, where not a day goes by without violence in the streets. On Saturday, 18th of June 2022, a series of violent attacks across the Mexican border, city of Reynosa, killed at least 14 innocent people who were thought to be cartel members. Although Reynosa, which is located across the border from McAllen, Texas, has always had to go through violence ever since the drug cartels became strong in the country, the killings on June 18, 2022 were different. This is because the people who were shot by the sicarios didn't belong to any rival cartel or drug business, but were innocent people going about their daily routine of earning a livelihood when the unfortunate incident happened. Those who lost their lives included workers, taxi drivers, and a nursing student. Such incidents affect not only the families of the victims, but also the whole locality. And that's exactly what happened in Reynosa after the news of the killing of innocent people spread across the city. As reported by the 5 NBC-DFW, a taxi driver said that it wasn't fair, as 2 of the victims were his colleagues and had nothing to do with cartels or drugs. The Reynosa attack took place in several neighborhoods in the eastern parts of the city and changed many lives forever. One of the victims included a 19-year-old boy named Fernando Ruiz, who was working as a plumber and bricklayer in his stepfather's company to pay for his tuition in school. According to Olga Ruiz, the brother of the victim, Fernando, along with 2 of his friends, were killed in cold blood as they were bombarded with bullets when Fernando was fixing a drain. They heard the gunshots from afar, and my stepfather told him, "Son, you have to take shelter." So he asked permission to enter a house, but my brother and his companions were only about to enter when the vehicles arrived. They stopped in front of them and started to shoot. It was later revealed by the state prosecutor that the attacks were launched by the 2 gangs that worked out Reynosa, and the purpose of these brutal attacks was to weaken the rival Metros faction. Reynosa, for its proximity to the US border, has always been a bone of contention for the Mexican drug cartels. The Metros, the Scorpions, and the Cyclones are the 3 factions of the notorious Gulf Cartel fighting for control of the border city. This fight has resulted in the death of many innocent people thought to be cartel members, and showed that drug cartels can be ruthless. If they found out a person is even remotely linked to their rivals, they go behind them because such a person is believed to be a cartel member even if they are not. The next incident will show you how. Case number 3. Killing of the Little Rooster. Along with people of other professions, musicians have been also the target of cartels, especially since Mexico's drug war flared in 2006. On such case was the killing of a popular Mexican singer called Jesus Rey David Alfaro, who was also known as the Little Rooster. The musician, who had several songs or narcocorrido glorifying drug lords, was killed in the most brutal way on February 20, 2008. His body was found covered in a blanket in a wasteland in the suburbs of Tijuana, the border city of Mexico, just south of California, which is notorious for drug smuggling into the United States. There were also rope marks around the dead body, which suggested that the musician was subject to torture before getting shot in the head. It wasn't just the Little Rooster who was killed that day, but his manager and assistant were also tortured to death. The singer became the victim of a violent war between the 2 major cartels at the time, the Arellano-Felix Cartel and the Sinaloa Cartel. Alfaro used to write songs and perform for the Arellano-Felix Cartel. This made the Sinaloa Cartel, which was being led by Joaquin El Chapo Guzman at the time, think that he was part of the Arellano-Felix Cartel, and they killed him and his team. But that was not it. There was a threat note for the Mexican army as well, which was fighting to crush the drug cartels and clean up the local police forces that were working with those cartels. The note said, "You will be next." Musicians have frequently been mistaken as cartel members because of playing at narco parties, while the artists perform in such parties solely for the reason that they get paid well. The rival cartel take it as if they are members of those cartels. Here's another incident of when a group of musicians were attacked as they were mistakenly believed to be part of a cartel. Case number 4. Mexico's narco-corrido murder epidemic of 2015. 2015 saw a rise in attacks on the singers who were thought to be part of different cartels in Mexico. A 20-year-old singer, Alfredito Olivas, was shot 8 times while he was performing at a club on February 27, 2015. The incident occurred in the city of Parral, Mexico, which has several nightclubs where singers perform on a daily basis. Although seriously injured, Alfredito survived the attack. Similarly, another singer by the name of Javier Rosas also received gunfire as he was traveling through the state of Sinaloa in his car on March 22nd. Javier had been producing songs that celebrated different drug dealers and their businesses, so it was believed that he had been attacked by the rival cartels that thought of him to be a member of the gangs he had produced the music for. While Alfredito and Javier both survived the attacks on them, Rogelio Brambila Lizarraga wasn't as fortunate. The singer of Los Plebes de la Ranque band, which had produced narco-corridos for the infamous Arellano Felix cartel, was found dead in a parked car in Tijuana, Mexico, on 21st of March 2015. The 22-year-old's body had been sprayed with bullets from 2 different guns. Talking about the artists being mistaken as cartel members, an independent promoter said, "It's like a horror movie. Artists get killed because they played at a party for a rival drug dealer, because they looked at a dealer's girlfriend, because they get paid to write or record a song about one dealer and a rival gets upset, or because they somehow piss off the dealer who's funding their career." While mostly cartels target innocent people thinking they work for their rivals, sometimes it's the authorities who mistake common citizens for cartel members. Let's talk about El Salvador, where a large number of innocent people got arrested just because the authorities thought they were part of some gang or cartel. Case number 5. El Salvador's mass arrest. El Salvador has been in the news in recent years for its strict crackdowns on cartels and gangs to reduce drug trafficking and violence in the country. But such large-scale measures by the government also comes with some downsides, and the biggest of them is innocent people being mistaken as cartel members and being treated as such. After El Salvador's president cracked down on cartels and gangs, many innocent people were considered cartel members and arrested. One such example is 2 Colombian citizens, Jose Antonio Pote and his childhood friend, Manuel Castrillon. The 2 friends traveled to El Salvador, hoping to find better opportunities in the country, after El Salvador announced that it welcomed people from all walks of life, as it transitioned into a Bitcoin-powered regional powerhouse. Potter, who was a welder, and Castrillon, a mechanized farming expert, decided to move from Rio Frio, a small town in Valle del Cauca, Colombia, to El Salvador, the paradise which they had heard about in Colombian media, with the goal of earning a better livelihood for their families. The 2 friends didn't know the paradise they were going to had hell waiting for them as they set foot in the foreign country. Castrillon arrived in El Salvador before his friend, and when Potts flew to Colombia on January 20, 2023, the 2 of them decided to meet for lunch in Soyapango on 21st of January. As the 2 friends met for lunch in the satellite town, just outside the Salvadoran capital, they were soon surrounded and arrested by the soldiers who asked them for their documents. Within just hours after getting detained, both Potes and Castrillon were taken to a jail where they were strip-searched, questioned, and photographed. Members of El Salvador notorious cartels and gangs have one thing in common: body tattoos. And since the Colombian friends also had tattoos on their bodies, the authorities paid special attention to what they meant and which cartels the 2 individuals belonged to. Castrillon later told the media, "They asked where we got our money from and said it must have been from narco-trafficking in Colombia, but I had 125 in cash and Jose had 75. Both Potes and Castrillon initially thought they would soon be let go because it was clearly a misunderstanding on the part of the authorities, but their guess proved wrong when they were thrown into a jail cell containing 25 high-profile criminals of the country. While both friends were confused and terrified, it was just the beginning of a nightmare that would last for the next 3 months. As days went by, Potes and Castrillon realized that they were not the only people who had been wrongfully detained. Rather, the Lopango prison where they were being kept in had other men too who were innocent and still behind bars. They saw dozens of women outside the prison, requesting the authorities to release their children because they were mistaken for cartel members and had nothing to do with any gang. Castrillon said, "It started really making sense then, that they were just throwing innocent people in jail to show them off to the outside world." While all these stories are quite terrifying, the most horrific and interesting story of them all is yet to come. Case number 6. Story of the Four Americans. On March 3rd, 2023, 4 Americans, Washington McGee, Eric Williams, Shaid Woodard, and Sindel Brown, crossed the US-Mexico border for a medical appointment in Matamoros, Mexico. Not long after the group of 4 friends entered Mexico, armed men ambushed their vehicle. As they were driving, they saw a car tailgating them and honking. They soon realized that it wasn't a normal car with normal people who just wanted them to get aside, because Brown could see a gun in the hands of one of the people in the vehicle behind them. Brown told the others to not stop the car no matter what, but as they were thinking about what to do and what not to do, the armed men in the car behind them started shooting at their car. Fearing for their lives, Sindel and Shaid jumped up to run, but they were both shot before they could hide in a safe place. The remaining 2 friends, Washington and Eric, stopped the car to avoid getting shot at, but little did they know it wasn't going to make any difference. As an unidentified man started to beat on the car window with a gun, Eric tried to jump from the driver's seat, but he was shot in the legs. Washington McGee, the only person in the group who wasn't shot, was forcibly thrown at the back of a pickup truck, and since the other 3 were wounded by gunshots, the armed men carried them to the bed of the truck. Both Shaid Woodard and Sindel Brown were alive when they were taken hostage. The 4 American friends were then transported to an unknown location where they were interrogated by the sicarios. According to a US official, the 4 friends were mistaken as Haitian drug smugglers and, therefore, were attacked and taken hostage by the cartel members. In the next few days, Washington and Eric were moved from one location to another, all while being blindfolded by their captors. The treatment they received from the sicarios was inhumane, to say the least. They were continuously being interrogated and threatened to be killed if they didn't give the information the cartel members were looking for. Although William was taken to a clinic for his legs that had been wounded because of the gunshots, the treatment was worse than the pain he went through when bullets pierced his body. Eric Williams said, "No medicine or nothing. They just stitch it up." Not only this, but the so-called doctor who was treating Williams didn't even check if the bullets were still inside his body or not. Meanwhile, Washington McGee was kept in a room with Sindel Brown, who was fighting for his life because of the bullet wounds. Washington McGee said he was fighting for his life and they didn't do anything.